Good evening. I'm Carly Hayward. I'm the language arts teacher on Team Garrow. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to make it today. I have written a letter which should be somewhere down here. I don't know where Miss Garrow put it, but you guys can take that. I still figured a virtual presentation was better than nothing or just a letter. Um, I guess the best way to tell you about what's happening in your child's classroom is to give you a tour of the classroom. If you look over there, you'll see my desk and a stack of colored bins. Those are the in boxes and the out boxes. They're a really great way for me to keep your child's stuff organized, and also is kind of the basis for the color coding you'll see around the room. So over here, all the way around, anywhere where you see lots of color, that pertains to each color period that we have. On the far wall against the windows over there, you'll see a bunch of crates just overflowing with notebooks and note card boxes. That is the vocabulary and spelling section. I'm actually working on a new storage system for those right now. Still waiting to hear back from the county if I get another bookshelf. But that's what we work on every Friday. So right now we're just working on vocabulary while they're still getting used to the system that I'm teaching them. Eventually we'll move into spelling. So everyone has their own personal vocabulary box, and they can get words to put in that box from their readings that they're doing outside of class or inside of class. I also have a list of 100 words that every 7th grader needs to know that they can put into there. Some kids that know all the words, I'll have other ways for them to get other words, because I want them to be interacting with words that they're actually going to use. Because in the past I've done 10 words a week, memorize it, tell me the definition on Friday, and everyone does really well on those, but then no one ever remembers them later down the road, and that's what we want, longevity of keeping the words. So there's going to be vocabulary words in there, prefixes, root words, all the kind of stuff that's going to help them in the future. Once we get into spelling, it'll be the same thing. It'll be commonly misspelled words. Anytime they misspell a word in their papers, I'll ask them to put it into their spelling list so they can work on that. And they work with those on partners. And so that way it kind of is like a double dose, because they get what they need and they're also seeing what their partner is working on as well. So they're kind of getting both words. You'll also see the spiral notebooks. Those are those 3 subject notebooks that I asked you to get. One subject is for spelling, one subject is for their reflections of how they think they're doing every week, and one is my reflections on how I think they're doing, along with special instructions that I want them to work on for the following week. You'll see in the back corner, back corner back there, that's our Student of the Week chair. So at once a week on Monday, I'll choose who I think really exemplify being a good student. Maybe it's through good behavior. Maybe they just be really nice for a peer. Maybe someone dropped a bunch of stuff, they helped carry it. Maybe they usually get B's and they got an A for the first time. Maybe they usually get C's and they got a B for the first time. Just anything to celebrate them, and they get to sit back there and have a nice little time. Then we have our star work, which is right in the back. That's stuff that we're working on that I think was a really good job. I think it's really important for people to see what A work looks like, and I think it's especially important for students that get B's a lot, so they can see what can they do to kind of bump up their work to get to the next level. Skipping around to the back, I guess your left, my right, wall back there, those are our reading log charts, the OWL charts back there. So they have to read 2 books a month, and they actually have their first set technically due tomorrow actually, but since August was a short month, they can turn those in September as well. They just have to have 4 books by the end of September. So they do have to read 2 books a month, and your child should let you know it's 200 pages counts as a book. So if they read longer books, it'll count as multiple books, because I want to encourage them to read longer books. To your left and my direct right here, you'll see another OWL poster that's actually taking care of the examples of their table of contents. I'm working on a new organizational method for them this year. Instead of having multiple dividers, they just have the one section that's for language arts, and there'll be a table of contents where they keep track of their grades, how much effort they put onto it. There's comments in there so they can say if they didn't work very hard on something, that explains why they got a lower grade. Maybe they stayed up really late one night, or they were really tired and that's why they got the B. It also will have different things being highlighted. So if it's an informational sheet, that's really important. It'll be highlighted so they can get to it faster. And those little marking flags are in there as well. I also have an example binder, which is right here, of the example binder as well as their example DGP journal. So if they're ever absent, they always have something to check on to make sure that it's all correct. I guess directly to my left is the SWAG team. That's students with awesome grades. So what I do is I put the class average for each assignment that goes up there. So you'll notice it says first and then a number, second, period, and a number. So that's the average for the class. And then to get the name up there, they have to get a 94%. So I think it's a really good way for them to see how they're doing against their peers. To see, you know, are they above the average? Are they below the average? If they didn't do well on something because they know they didn't try or they didn't study for something, then it's a good way for them to kind of like gauge where they are with the rest of the class. And then I think it also celebrates the really high grades, which I think we should be proud of. Oh, right now those are pretest scores, which is why there aren't very many names up there. Those are things that we're going to go over this year. So if you don't see your child's name up there, don't worry about it because we haven't even learned all that stuff yet. Some of them have learned it, which is good, but we will cover everything on that pretest. So those grades are going to be as high as they would be if it was a post-test. Well, that's it for the room. We're going to be reading and writing a lot. I really enjoy history and science. I was actually considering being a history teacher before I decided to go for language arts, so I do like to bring in a lot of other subjects into language arts. I never use multiple choice tests. They always make them defend and explain their answers, which turns out to be a really positive thing because that's how the Georgia Milestones tests are going to be when those are coming up this year. So generally only the time that a student doesn't do well in my class is because they aren't turning in their work. I'm pretty strict about when things are due and how I like them presented. Every assignment has a different focus, so I have them kind of code and label them a different way. So if they aren't coded correctly, then it looks like it's missing. I think it's really important that students follow directions, and I have very explicit directions when I give them. There's a lot of freedom for creativity and expression in there, but there needs to be the bare minimum of this is how I want it labeled, and I ask for it very clearly, so I want it that way. So if your kid has a project due, ask to see the instruction sheets. A lot of times there's going to be a checklist that oftentimes is not checked when they turn it in, so I know they didn't double check themselves. It's a good way for you to just kind of double check to make sure they have everything the instruction says. It's really sad when a student turns in a project they're really proud of and it looks wonderful, but it doesn't have the stuff that I asked for. So I'm like, you can tell me a really good story, but if it's not the story I asked for, you know, if I ask you what 2 plus 2 is, then you're like 5, because that's a great answer for 2 plus 3, but that's not the question I was asking. So that's why I think it's really important to follow those directions. Again, I'm so sorry I couldn't be here. I really appreciate you guys coming. There is a letter somewhere here. If you ever want to message me, I'm pretty quick about answering back on my email. I've really enjoyed your children. I don't think I've really had a problem with anyone so far this year. It's been a really good year. I'm looking forward to a great year with a great set of kids.